Welcome, welcome. Another episode of Fine Line Fridays. Myself, Will Riley. We have Chad Westbrook. Chad, how you doing today?
I'm doing good and I'm ready.
You ready? What are you ready for?
I'm ready for ServiceCon.
Yes, yes. I'm
Yes.
very excited about ServiceCon. This whole podcast is dedicated towards ServiceCon. And what is ServiceCon? You've been a part of kind of helping put this whole thing together. And I hope to unpack this in a really clear manner where we can articulate what exactly you're going to get out of attending this conference and why it's different than other conferences. I think in order to go deeper there, I need to tell a little bit of a story because a lot of people ask, how long has it been around? How many people are going to show up? What am I going to get out of it? But let me tell a little bit of a background story. So ServiceCon has existed before. It's gone on one or two different times, and it used to be ran by a group called STG. And the bandwidth wasn't quite there for this event to continue on. But when I participated in 22, ServiceCon was unique. It was a really small, intimate setting, but in that group, there was nothing but like-minded service leaders that exchanged super solid content. And it was the best show that I've been in, even though it was the smallest show. It was something that I knew needed to live on. So long story short, next year came around, I didn't see any announcement. I'm like, where's ServiceCon? Another couple months, no ServiceCon. So I reached out to STG and I said, what are you guys going to do with this thing? I don't know if I told you that story, but I was like, what are you guys going to do with this event? And they're like, well, do you want to buy it? I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know about that. But then I start to think, well, maybe I do. And this is no selfish motive. This is really because this event needs to live on. I firmly believe that. There's so much more that this thing can do. So we ended up making a deal where we brought it over, and that came with the domain, the branding, just the whole site. Everything was, the whole structure is already there. So the idea is that, yes, this lives on, but not only myself, but guys like Chad, Tracy, with Greg, with Bryan Mitchell, all of the service thought leaders that I would argue that are in the industry, relevant in the industry, can contribute to put on a conference that isn't the normal show up, take notes, and you leave kind of a thing. So that's the idea. Chad, do you see the vision in what ServiceCon can be?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Now, I was not there in 22. But I guess the first thing I'll say, I love that you committed to service, right? And I know you always have. I know Centerpoint's focus is there, right? But to be able to take that step and just say, hey, where is this? And I'm interested in making it live on, to me is just awesome. Um, when I think about, so when I first got, when you first asked me, like, hey, let's do something with this. It's like, all right. Because when I think of like IRE, International Roofing Expo, the first thing that anyone ever asks me, what do I pay for? I don't pay for the trade show floor. I don't pay to walk through all of those booths or anything else like that. Me personally, I pay for all of the conversations that I have to pick because 17 of them are going on at 7 a.m. and I want to see six of them, but I can only choose one, right? And then I have to shrink it down to like where it is, right? Is it hard to be there at 7 a.m. to be able to start the first one? Yes, we all know that. But outside of that, like that's why I go to IRE, right? That's why I go to all of these different conferences, is because I love listening to different viewpoints, possibly of the same situation, right? Or wherever it is. To me, that's the win. So like when you start shrinking that down into a specific type, right? A specific sector, like that's when this thing gets so cool to me.
Yeah, no question. And you're right too, because for me, IRE and like many others, everybody, large numbers, attends that conference, and they each have their own objective. It might be I'm searching for software, I'm searching for safety, I'm searching for new metal forming equipment, I'm searching for knowledge or whatever it is. Um, to make the best use of time, you got to kind of gravitate towards what you're trying to get out of the event. But if you look at ServiceCon in itself, it is, who's it for? Let's ask that question. Who is it for? ServiceCon is for owners. It is for service leaders. It's also for sales leaders, right? Is there room for administrators or office personnel or bookkeeping to come in? There is, of course. But the most you're going to get is if you send someone that can make influential changes within the organization. We need to drive service by making sales, or we need to drive service by keeping our customers happy, or we need to drive scalability by X, Y, Z. That's the kind of stuff that you'll get out of this event. Shrinking the pool, to your comment, this will be an audience of both contributors and recipients of everything service knowledge. And service in general has evolved, I'd say, significantly over the past 20 years, but more especially over the past 5 years. I mean, tell me, what do you think? How has service evolved from 20 years ago till today?
So there was a webinar that myself, Greg Hayne, and Carrick all did with Roofer's Coffee Shop. And a question very similar to that came up, right? It's like, why service? Why all of a sudden service? And it's not all of a sudden service. And Greg Hayne has a different opinion than I, and that's the beautiful part of ServiceCon is that you're going to get different opinions. I feel that service came to the surface right when COVID hit. All production stopped, at least in my world and most of the stuff. The prices skyrocketed, which killed every single budget that was out there. And companies had to find a way to make money because they had to live. They had to pay their employees. I mean, life was still going on to a certain extent, right? Some of us were part of that small world that still operated, right, as an essential. But like to me, that's when service really became front and center. Prior to that, it's always been the slow months, right? Depending on where you are inside the US. As soon as November hits, snow flies, production's done. All right, well, now we got to either lay people off or we got to find ways to make cash. And service was just kind of that intermittent thing that happened. So now we're actually seeing that like service can be a driver to your business, right? It can drive you to more replacements, it can drive you to more customers and better relationships. And I think as we start getting smarter with data, and you and I know this, right? Because like the data cell, that's been there for what, 10, 15 years for us, where I
Mhm.
think it's really bubbling to the top now to understand, well, if I do an inspection on a building, now I know when the roof's going to be replaced, right? It might be 5 years, 10 years down the road, but like now that we got that data on our hands and we know how to use it, that to me is what's driving service to be a top of the line or top of priority.
I tend to agree, and there's variables, there's layers to this too, and it's interesting to see um, the progression of service-based businesses because the first layer, you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know you can leverage data that's already been collected by sales in estimating assets. You don't know the big picture data cell or the life cycle of a customer just yet. You just know what you know in the very beginning. So taking this from all different angles is going to be really exciting because you're going to have different insight than Greg. Tracy's going to have different insight than Bryan, right? We have all these event contributors. So I'm excited to kind of see that unpack. You can't cram it all in to like a 2, 3, 4 hour session. Honestly, some of the best service companies that I've seen, they didn't get there in 1, 2, 3 years. They got there over a long period of time. Can you get there sooner? Absolutely, right? If we decided to start a service company tomorrow, yeah, we can get there much sooner. But I'm excited for that. Now, in terms of vision for ServiceCon, yes, I wanted it to live on. That was first and foremost. So in order for it to live on, there needs to be this well-established base. Now, I would love to quadruple the base that we had, and we're already on track for that. So I'm expecting 200 butts in seats. We've got the room for it. If we exceed that, we can go above and beyond that. But this year, to me, will be about setting the base, and then next year it'll be driven 100% by a think tank, right? So a board where you exist, Greg, Tracy, Bryan, right? All of the service thought leaders can put their ideas together in a way where contractors can not only attend, but they can like dissect that data, dissect that information, and inject it into like a roadmap. And I don't know exactly how we're going to pull that off, but that's the vision.
It's the beauty of it. So like you said it, right? Like you look at what we got Cody Kline, you got Greg Hayne, you got Tracy Donels, you have Bryan Mitchell. Am I missing anybody? As far as like thought leaders?
Yeah, those would be like the coaches, the consultants, the trainers, the peer group facilitators.
Out what we do, right? So first off, let's take out what it is, because in order for me to be valuable to anybody who's coming, you got to understand what my background is, because I absolutely have superpowers. I absolutely have weaknesses, just like we all do. And the coolest part about that is that when I look at, let's just say myself and Bryan Mitchell, we were ultimately in two completely different worlds. So depending on if you are what I would call him a territory titan, best roofing in Miami, it's incredible. He had 20 plus trucks that were constantly moving, and like that's an animal. Where my experience is much more on that growth side, right? Where I was a dart on a dartboard. It's like, hey, we want to open up a service territory in Atlanta. Start tomorrow. Like, what do you do? How do you start? Where do you find clients? How do you build those relationships? And then you can do the same thing with Cody, the same thing with Tracy, right? And then Greg. All of them have their own experiences. And to me, that's the coolest part, is that you're going to get a piece of that, right, from each of us as we come in and talk about what our superpowers are. So you guys can choose, because like I always say, like, and it's a quote, right? But you don't rise to the level of your goals, right? You got a $5 million service goal. That's great. You're going to fall to the level of your processes, which means if your process does not support a $5 million business, then it doesn't matter, right? At some point, it's going to fail and break until you fail to the point of what you can sustain. So you got to be able to raise that floor. You got to be able to improve your processes, um, time in and time out. And that's what I see coming from this, is like that mastermind side of our experiences.
Yeah, and on the other side too, to your point, raising the floor, how can events raise the floor? And I think a big way of doing that is having what I'll call more of like a cohesive schedule or agenda. You know, a lot of these conferences, they rely on the speakers to submit topics, and you kind of check off the ones that are, I want, oh, this sounds good, this sounds good. But guess what? Those are all not in line with each other. They don't connect. They may connect in some different ways. But if you take a step back and go, okay, what does this event need to get out of it? Well, to me, that's from the very beginning all the way to the very end. The very beginning is, what is service? Like, why are we even intrigued or attracted to this idea of service? It doesn't mean like I'm just a service company. Like, trust me, we're going to get into it. Service, re-roofs, coatings, like it's all connected. But from the very beginning of I do zero service to your first truck, to your first set of policies, your procedures, your second truck. Some would argue going from truck one to truck two is the most difficult thing you'll ever do, to five trucks. You know, what does that look like? And at that point, we've dissected a lot of information. We'll break off, we'll have peer groups based on service managers, sales managers, maybe owners, right? Where you can actually converse with each other and have more information relayed. We'll come back for part two or day two, where now we're talking to a well-established service division. Like, how do we continue to refine that, continue to get better, and continue to grow and scale? And there's a lot of different end objectives for a lot of different contractors. We're going to be able to hit on all of those. So I'm very excited for that, because the whole point is having a cohesive agenda, and you don't get that at other shows.
Agreed. 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 So I guess one of the biggest things that I see is like when I go to IRE, and I know I'm using that as an example, but it's any big trade show, right? It's like you said, it's a jam-packed agenda, right? Where it's like I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, and I'm going back to back every single time. You don't get time to actually process the information. The coolest thing that I loved about it, right, is you kind of explained, like, this is somewhere where you grow your business. You're going to come in and you're going to hear stuff. And from my side, I'm probably going to say you're going to hear stuff you like. It's like, oh, that's awesome. I would love to implement that. And then you're going to say, yeah, I don't really like that. I don't want that. I would never do that. And both of those are absolutely beautiful, because that's what service is, right? It's your business. You get to build it. But Will, like you said, the coolest part is like when you get together with like-minded peers to be able to say, I really liked that when he said this, and then someone else says, oh yeah, but what if we did this? And you start getting the peer groups, right? And you start building that stuff of how some of the best minds, not speaking, but some of the best minds possibly at your table can help evolve an idea into something great. So
Fair
again,
point.
that's what I love about it.
And there's going to be a lot of that happening, I suspect, because there's in the audience several contractors that range from $10 million service department all the way down to just interested in getting started. So you're going to be sitting with those people, the people that run those companies, and the companies that they run, they want them to get better. They want to get better. So talk about the shared pool. It's like if you have any interest at all in growing your company and having service as an offering, we can go through all the reasons all day long. And I'll just say one really quick. But, for example, everyone creates their company because they want to make something that's valuable, right? Whether they decide to pass it on to their children or succession planning or they want to sell it. So one way I put it into perspective, let's say a normal replacement contractor and a contractor that does service. The replacement contractor, let's say they do $10 million in sales every year. All they do is re-roofs. If they were to go get appraised, let's say they're worth half their annual sales. They may get an evaluation of $5 million. Let's say contractor that does service, let's say just for simplicity's sake, they only do service. Let's say they do 3 million in service, but it's with the same clientele over and over again. Well, guess what? That contractor that does service is likely to get an appreciation or a value of 3x. So that $3 million is all of a sudden worth $9 million. So, and which comes with more risk, which comes with less. You could do the math on that, but there's so many models too and interconnections that you can build off of. But those are great motives to want to get into service, and then they should tie you in with the type of audience, the type of people, the type of contributors that we're going to have here at this event.
So I love that, right? Because much like you said, this is the entire journey. And at the end of it, you guys have to make the choice. What is service, right? And it's going to start, why service? Why would we even care about this? All the way into the end, like you said, which is maybe an evaluation, right? That's got a 3 to 5 time multiplier on it. Or maybe you want it to run without you, right? Maybe you want to open up another one, or maybe there's something else you're doing that you love within the business, right? So like to me, that's the huge win from this. Think about sitting at the table, and I'm just making this up on both sides, as a $1 million contractor, being able to speak to a $10 million contractor, say, dude, if you were in my shoes, what would you do different? While best practices are being shared. Or imagine being a $10 million contractor and you're like, dude, we just can't get out of our own way. And this $1 million contractor has found a way to be able to value engineer a process to say, dude, that's awesome. I wonder if I can do that in my $10 million company. And to me, that's best practices, right? To me, that's sharing those things that are going to be able to make our industry better and to be able to step out of our comfort zone of people that we'd never normally be able to sit with. Because again, if we're at any type of larger expo, they're wonderful, they're beautiful, they have a massive amount of value, but you don't know who's next to you. You don't know if that's a new construction, a concrete guy, a metal, residential, wherever it is. These are like-minded individuals that have the same mission, right? Different areas throughout the U.S., right? Because we're going to have everyone throughout continental U.S. You can tell me Canada or Hawaii, but when we talk about that, I mean, that's what we're talking about. Think about the conversations that are going to be happening not only while while the speakers are going on in post, but at dinner and different things like that. So if you're
Yeah.
committed to service, to me, this is where it happens.
Yeah, and to your point about attending some of these other events, and I don't care if it's MRCA, Western States, Best of Success, IRE. This is one of which I feel the masses are happy to share. Sometimes you show up to a class or something and you don't know if you can reach to the next guy over and ask him a question, if they're willing to share the answer to the question. So this is something where you can assume anyone you talk to was happy to share. And that's what I love about the industry so much is everyone's eager to exchange what they know. It's the reason that I learned, the actual service side so quickly. I was plopped into a seat and I had to manage service day one. I'm billing jobs and I have no idea if it's the right material on the invoice or what, but I came up to speed quickly because the service techs, they wanted to educate me on the right repairs. I'd have to go out and get blisters, spud and rock, but I want them to learn that the right way. It's
And
going to be the
Service
same.
Channel probably rejected your invoice. That was part two that probably pressured you.
Couple strikes. Okay. I got it right eventually. Yeah. So I'm excited. The future of this is to create a platform that lives on. We have these events, let's say once a year, and we can capture that in new and innovative ways for it to be injected into the site, ServiceCon.com, which is also where you go to buy tickets. But that site, I would love for it to evolve and become a true hub for non-bias, ultimate compilation of everything service related, right? Where there could be libraries in there could be knowledge bases in there could be training in there. We're talking with NRCA about a lot of things and upping the game on service technician training, right? We're working with other distributors on, service specifically as a topic. I just want to help kind of connect everything and let it kind of live on. That's my pure motive out of the best interest of the industry. This has nothing to do with sales, right? It's not like anyone's going there to sell anyone. It's literally to give. And I'm a firm believer in this. If you just do the right thing, the money part's always going to be automatic, right? If you have the right conversations of the purest intent, you're not trying to go there to make a bunch of sales, that'll happen automatically on its own if it's the right thing.
Yep. So I love this because what's going through my head is that I'm a part of the NRCA because one, I want to be able to support the industry. I want to have resources at my hands, the repair guidebook, all that kind of different stuff. I'm a part of RT3, Roofing Technology Think Tank, because I want to be on the forefront of helping contractors understand technology. And now I'm a part of ServiceCon, which is going to be able to help contractors create profitable businesses inside a private negotiated world. And I'm excited to say that. I'm excited to say that I'm going to be there. I'm excited to be able to talk about how to start a service division. And one of the coolest things is that when I tell that to somebody, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of what we spoke about today, right? How to start a service division. And in no way am I saying this disrespectful, but these are $3, $4, $5 million service companies that I'm talking to, where we're talking about core values, when we're talking about purpose, when we're talking about mission, when we're talking about career ladders, right? So even though it's starting service, and that's what I'm talking about, that framework, right? I already said it, right? You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, processes. That's where all of this starts. So that's what you guys are going to get to start with, right? And then we're going to start tagging on what has Tracy done? What has Cody done? What has Bryan done? What has Greg done? And you start building, right, this process that ultimately could be a 10 or $20 million service division, depending on what you want it to be. All the secrets, all the best practices, all the stuff will be there.
I love it. I'm excited. It couldn't come any sooner. So if you're going to IRE, stop by the booth. We'll have more information. ServiceCon is less than 30 days after IRE. March 12th is the reception party. The 13th, 14th are the actual the two event days. You can go to ServiceCon.com. You could check out the agenda. You could check out some of the speakers there, sponsors. You could purchase your tickets through there. Now, before you purchase any tickets, reach out to Chad, reach out to me, reach out to any of the event contributors. They do have a coupon code for you to use. And we want to attract the best of the best. That's what this is about. So, Chad, thank you for talking about ServiceCon today on our Fine Line Fridays. We will catch you on the flip side.
Sounds good. See you guys.
See ya.